deeper. It's a much wider problem. Americans are also committing an awful lot of fraud. Is that as of now, he has a disability rating of 100% from the Department of Veterans Affairs, to the point that they receive a substantial amount of cash every year from the taxpayer, possibly serve as a U.S. senator.
We are seeing a debate about veteran affairs benefits and fraud going on between Matt Walsh and Graham Platner, which is trying to be one of the campaigners. I'm not going to get into politics for Maine. This issue has been brewing for years, something that we really need to discuss. But Matt Walsh is saying that there is fraud happening within veteran affairs, and there are a lot of veterans that are getting money that they should not. Now, to give you some context, Graham Platner is a recipient of 100% disability. We'll get into the details of it, but check out what Matt has to say.
In other words, we can't pretend that Somalis are the only ones scamming us with fake claims of autism and other disabilities. Yes, it is righteous to arrest and deport every single one of these people, which we should. Yes, Somalis are committing horrific crimes. Yes, their average IQ is extremely low. Yes, they should not be in this country in the first place. But it's also true that this goes much deeper. It's a much wider problem. Americans are also committing an awful lot of fraud. In some cases, they're helping Somalis while lining their own pockets. In many other cases, they're simply helping themselves. So take, for example, the curious case of Graham Platner, who's running for the Democrat Party's nomination for U.S. Senate in Maine. And Platner is best known as the guy with the Nazi tattoo who supposedly didn't realize it was a Nazi tattoo. But what's interesting about Platner is not the tattoo. What's interesting about him is that as of now, he has a disability rating of 100% from the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Say, well, if that's the case, then if people can only do 50% because they have a 50% disability, they should just work part-time. That would be the logic that we would apply here. But let's look at any side of the fence. I look at like other people that are in political roles right now. You look at Marcus Luttrell. You look at Pete Buttigieg. You look at Tulsi Gabbard. You look at any of these people. A lot of them have deployed to the same or similar combat zones as this person. Now, I don't know if they all have 100% or don't, or what they suffered during their service, but everybody has a right to be able to apply to have their grievances heard, because you, as a service member, you can't sue for like workers' comp or any of that stuff while you were in the military. We need to also talk about the divide between this. You have Somalians over here and you have veterans, which is, he's conflating these two together as fraudulent, okay? We have Somalians, which a lot of people are assuming that they are not legal, or maybe even just green card holders, whatever. But still, they're not providing a service or good for the betterment of the community, which is watching kids in Nick Shirley's video, right? We are seeing that. And so they are just doing nothing but getting money. Bad, not good. Now, you have somebody over here that went and did a job for the U.S. military, which went to hold up the ideals of American values and ensure the freedom and all the safety of what it means to have one of the biggest militaries in the world, right? And that comes at a price. But those people are actually doing something. They're providing some kind of output of production where you're not having that with this. So to conflate these two things together as just blatant fraud together, I think is very dangerous and a slippery slope.
Now, publicly, Platner has said that these benefits amount to roughly $5,000 a month, or about $60,000 a year. Now, wait a minute, you might say. 100% disability. How can someone who is 100% disabled, to the point that they receive a substantial amount of cash every year from the taxpayer, possibly serve as a U.S. senator? Like, what does the term 100% mean? Because when I hear that, I think, oh, totally disabled. Like you are not able to do anything. And yet you can serve as a U.S. senator? Which, on second thought, given the quality of our politicians, maybe is not so hard to believe. But for that matter, he also continues to work as an oyster farmer and harbor master. Well, how does he do that if he's 100% disabled? He's 100% disabled. He's got a full-time job. He's 100% disabled. He's got a full-time job and he's running for Senate. 100% disabled. Now, in response, you might point out that under our current laws, it's possible to receive $60,000 a year with 100% disability while also working full time in an extremely demanding job and obviously not being 100% disabled. And that's probably true. I'm not an expert in disability law, but I can say with absolute confidence that it should not be true.
Now, I understand that he is thinking a physical demanding job. What we've publicly known is that this is due to mental health issues. Now, I want to say that that is something we have no spiel of, like how this affects him day in, day out. And I think it's dangerous if we start saying that if somebody has any bit of mental health, especially as we've been more aware of how this has been more prominent within our population over the years, especially veterans. We want veterans within lawmakers' offices and making, laws for people and advocating. And, I even look at like the Jon Stewart situation where a lot of this happened because he and many others pushed to have the government, the Department of Veteran Affairs, to recognize burn pits and other exposures that do get exposed during combat or even training for that. A feedback loop. People that deploy have to fulfill a deployment health assessment to be able to say, I was exposed to this or that or this, because they really don't know what they could have been exposed to. And back in the day, it was just like a, trust me, bro, I was in Vietnam at the same place. It is now 2026. We have computers to document where you were at. Were you part of this group? What unit were you with? Like, it's not like a trust me, bro thing here. I'm just putting that out there.
If you're capable of becoming a U.S. Senator and if you're capable of working on a boat for a living, then you are not 100% disabled and you don't need $60,000 from the taxpayer on account of your disability, period. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're a veteran, doesn't matter if you're a good person or a bad person. This is just a matter of common sense. It's a matter of like words mean things. 100% disabled means you shouldn't be working on a boat every day. But Graham Platner, of course, is just one example of a much, much larger trend. Disability fraud in this country is rampant. And it's extremely expensive, particularly when it comes to the VA. Something like 7% of our taxes go to VA benefits. And you have to wonder how much of that is unnecessary spending on men like Graham Platner. How much money are we sending to fraudsters at the VA instead of actual American service members who could use the money for their own legitimate medical care? Because there are plenty of those people too. Now, admittedly, from a political perspective, it's not as easy to go after fraudsters in the VA compared to, say, Somalis in Minnesota who can't even speak English. But it's arguably a lot more important to do so, especially since it's a more common and more expensive problem. And again, it's wasting resources that should be used to treat and assist veterans who actually need it. But apparently the VA basically operates on an honor system where if you say you're disabled, the money just starts flowing. Watch.
So let's also break this down because he says it's rampant, okay? Now, my research shows about 30% of veterans are on some compensated level. That could be 10%, which is like $100, to up to your highest hitting 100%, where that is where this person is at that he is going after. Now, what he doesn't understand is he's dumbing it down where, like, if I said to you, you are 70% disabled from one condition, you'd be like, oh, that means you're good. If you get another 30%, you're at 100. No. VA math does not work that way. It is actually more complicated. You can look it up. Now, mind you, I'm even doing more research where you're looking at 13 to 16% of the budget is just going to defense. Obviously, as a byproduct of that, you're going to have service members during training, during deployments, things like that get injured. It's not like people just get to show up and say, I have my brain hurt, my thumb hurts, and my toe hurts. 100%, and they walk out. That is not how the system works. It's overgeneralizing what veterans have to go through. And it brushes over and dismisses some of the ideas. We had only, I think it was like 2 months ago, a veteran that went to a VA parking lot because they could not get service for their issues. And there's, up here, that essentially they took their own life. I mean, it's been multiple times. And so, yes, if anything, it shows maybe people need more help. And little about this, Matt does not really understand the culture of this, is like, how many of you guys served in the military and you were told don't go to medical? How many times? A lot, right? I know that. And that is the culture. And then you get out and then you're trying to backtrack. And if anything, you're getting less percentage of this. Not even every veteran uses all of their benefits. You look at the GI Bill where about 50-ish% of people actually touch that thing. I think it's about 52% per my research. Now that says touch it, not even finished college. And they could have taken a few classes. Now, when they want to actually use it for their family, you got to serve at least 14 years, which means you're a lifer, you're staying for 20 at that point. It bumps up to like 64% usage. But I'm like, it's still not even being fully used. Like the veteran benefits, not everyone's able to use and cap out every single one. And that includes the 100% disability. Just putting that out there. Not everyone is 100%.
Oh, I'm a VA disability with dependents. We have 2 kids.
Right. Okay. 4,700 twice a month?
No, I make 4,700 once a month, and he makes 3,600 twice a month, and it equals between 11 and 12.
Are you going to get disability too?
Oh, yes, I will.
There is not a single veteran that has come on the show that does not just get endless money for the rest of their life with disability.
It breaks your body
It
and
really
mine.
does. I'm old. I've done a lot. I'm a police officer for the Navy.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of hardworking stuff throughout the time.
Yeah.
Which I got issues all around.
But even people that just serve for like 3 years and they just sat on a base, they get it. Like there has not been one single person on this entire show that doesn't get thousands of dollars for the rest of their life. I think it's like 5% of our budget now.
It's something.
It's something crazy.
Like that.
It's just disabilities forever.
Well, they serve their country, and they probably have earned it.
It's disability.
Yeah, I get that, but there's things that when you serve your country and you break your body or you can't
I
function
totally
the
agree.
same
I'm
way.
saying every single person that has ever been on this show who has literally just sat at a base and did nothing.
And I have a
also
lot of
gets
them.
this.
I know a lot of them. Yes. They will be able to claim some stuff. Yes.
I'm not saying if you go get hurt or anything. Like, I think that's why it's there, right?
Yes.
Right. That's what it's intended for.
That's what it's intended for.
There is no way somebody just goes to one appointment and says, I'm diagnosed, I have it, and that's it. There are conditions within the VA system where you could have not service connected, which we all make jokes about, but you could even be service connected and be at 0%, meaning it doesn't affect you enough to give you any money for it. But yeah, we say you experience it because of the military. He doesn't even talk about that. And I'm like, there are people fighting to be like, yeah, this is what I'm experiencing. And that is why he's overlooking. There's law firms and other people that actually do practice veteran disability law specifically to try and fight for these veterans and service members because they've been trying and some of them cannot work. Caleb thinks you're just twiddling your thumbs on a base. That's not the case. If you've ever been on an Army base, Marine Corps base, go drive around at like 6:30. They're doing fireman carries, buddy drags. They're doing all these things. They're doing obstacle O courses, by the way, which in training, we had a kid that was already rolled for an illness issue for some kind of joint thing, then tries to hop over the log on the downward, the big jump over on the O course. I'll show it on the screen here. And then broke his humerus here because of injury that went down that way. And then also broke his ankle at the same time. And that wasn't even like combat related. So there are people that are always doing things that are inherently dangerous, and the military is one of them. And even as dumb as it is to be on a base, like, do you know who some of the worst people are for back injuries? You're going to say Army, Marine Corps. Let me guess. You're going to say that, right? You know who actually has some of the worst back issues out of every branch? And you're going to say it's not a branch? It's the Coast Guard. Have you ever thought about they are on the tiniest boats, call them boats, not ships, and they're doing this, smacking the water over and over, repetitive motion. It doesn't stop. They're going along the coast, and they're getting those drug cartels. They're doing all that over and over again. You can get degenerative disc disease from that kind of stuff that is earlier onset. And so I'm just like, we have people talk about medical things that are not medical people that don't understand this. I think there's been so many people that have had to fight to get where we're even at, to recognize injuries and things that they're exposed to, that to regurgitate this on camera and talk about it being fraud, it's such a disservice. And it's something that I'm glad, because I feel like a lot of people probably didn't have those benefits. There's probably some people that died from cancers, whatever else, that never got to see the day of where we are now. And unfortunately, that's the price of war. This is the price of having a military that is as robust as we are. I do understand his perspective. I just think there's a lot of people that don't have this perspective. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about this whole Matt Walsh situation versus Graham Platner, because this was not a great take. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below.